Following yet another apparent sabotage of an undersea cable, Europe is increasingly acknowledging these incidents as deliberate attacks. The latest case involved a Swedish fiberoptic cable damaged last Sunday, once again by a vessel dragging its anchor. This is the fourth major attack on Europe's undersea infrastructure in 3 years, following damage to the sea line communication cable between Finland and Germany in November, the Finland-Estonia power cable in December, and the rupture of the Balticconnector natural gas pipeline in 2023. These incidents align with hybrid warfare or grey zone tactics, deliberate acts to weaken European infrastructure while testing responses and intelligence capabilities, all under plausible deniability. The vessels involved are civilian, not military, making direct attribution difficult. While links to Russia and China are evident, proving responsibility for any single act remains a challenge. The weak initial response from European leaders and NATO appears to have emboldened further attacks, as evidenced by the growing frequency of these accidents. In just 3 months between November 2024 and January 2025, 4 European power or data cables have been damaged. The official explanations have never been convincing. The Balticconnector gas pipeline was allegedly torn open when a Chinese vessel accidentally dragged its anchor for hundreds of kilometers without anyone noticing. China eventually admitted responsibility, but blamed the incident on a storm. No such storm occurred in the region at that time. The pattern of grey zone attacks is clear: target critical infrastructure with civilian vessels, deny responsibility or blame an act of God, then repeat. For the West, standard procedures, careful investigations and legal avenues are proving ineffective. Just as the Philippines had to develop new strategies to counter China's grey zone tactics in the South China Sea, Europe must quickly adapt and recognize that it's already engaged in a new kind of quasi-Cold War. This realization may finally be taking hold, as reflected in the response to this latest incident and NATO's evolving strategy. Following this latest damage to the Sweden-Latvia data cable, Swedish authorities responded swiftly. Armed police boarded the Bulgarian-owned bulk carrier Vezhin by helicopter and boat, seizing the vessel. It was then escorted by a Coast Guard ship into Swedish waters, where it was anchored. This response contrasts sharply with the reaction in November, when the E-Pung 3 was allowed to leave Swedish waters. German and Swedish investigators only boarded the vessel a month later, and only with Beijing's permission, to observe a Chinese-led investigation. 3 days later, the vessel was permitted to continue its journey. This marks a significant policy shift within just 3 months. However, it remains unclear whether European authorities would show the same decisiveness if the vessel in question sailed under a Chinese flag. NATO has also escalated its response, launching Operation Baltic Sentry. This initiative will deploy frigates, drones and submarines across the Baltic to protect critical infrastructure and deter further sabotage. These developments are promising, but key questions remain. The initial response suggests that European leaders still hesitate to fully acknowledge they are already engaged in a hybrid conflict with Russia and China. The alignment between Russia, China and Iran is clear. Russia's war in Ukraine has only been possible with Beijing's economic and military support. Likewise, Houthi missile and drone attacks on Western shipping in the Red Sea have conspicuously spared Russian and Chinese vessels. China's dispute with the Philippines in the South China Sea may offer a preview of what could happen next. For over a year, China has harassed, rammed and boarded Philippine vessels inside the country's exclusive economic zone. Even with evidence, Beijing continues to portray the Philippines as the aggressor. A similar strategy is plausible in the Baltic: continued infrastructure attacks followed by denials and flimsy excuses, unless met with a firm and immediate response. Much then will depend on how the EU reacts the next time a Chinese-flagged vessel accidentally drags its anchor for hundreds of kilometers.